Reagan Tokes' story is one of light and promise, but also one of deep tragedy. She was a young woman with her whole future ahead of her, someone who inspired others with her smile, her energy, and her kindness. But in February 2017, her life was cut short in a way that shocked her family, her friends, and an entire community. Reagan was born on March 6, 1995, in Toledo, Ohio. She grew up in a loving family and was described by many who knew her as full of life and driven. She wasn't just a student or an athlete. She was someone who made the people around her feel valued. Reagan had a strong work ethic, always pushing herself to do her best in school and in sports. She played soccer throughout her school years and carried that passion into her time at university. By 2017, Reagan was 21 years old and a senior at Ohio State University in Columbus. She studied psychology and had plans to pursue graduate school after graduation. She dreamed of becoming a therapist so she could help people struggling with their mental health. Those who knew her said she had the perfect mix of intelligence, compassion, and determination to succeed in that field. Like many college students, Reagan balanced her studies with part-time work. She had a job at a restaurant in Columbus, where she worked late evening shifts to support herself. Even with the pressure of school and work, she still made time for friends, family, and her teammates. Everyone described her as the type of person who could brighten any room with her presence. But on the night of February 8, 2017, Reagan's life took a devastating turn. She had finished her evening shift at the restaurant and left work to head home. What should have been a simple drive back became a nightmare. Reagan never made it home that night. The next day, her car was found abandoned near Scioto Grove Metro Park. Hours later, investigators discovered her body nearby. She had been kidnapped, assaulted, and murdered. The crime sent shockwaves through Ohio and soon gained national attention. How could something so horrific happen to such a promising young woman? The man responsible was later identified as Brian Goldsby, a 29-year-old repeat offender. At the time of the murder, Goldsby had just been released from prison and was living in a halfway house. He was supposed to be monitored by a GPS ankle bracelet, but the system failed to protect Reagan. Goldsby had been committing robberies in the area in the weeks leading up to the murder, but no one stopped him in time. The trial that followed exposed serious flaws in the justice and parole systems. People asked hard questions. Why was someone with Goldsby's record free to roam the streets? Why wasn't his GPS tracking properly monitored? Could Reagan's death have been prevented? For Reagan's family, the tragedy was unbearable. Their daughter, sister, and friend was gone forever. But in their grief, they decided to act. They founded the Reagan Tokes Memorial Foundation to honor her memory and to push for change. They worked to raise awareness about violence, parole failures, and safety for young women. They also pushed for new laws, leading to the passing of the Reagan Tokes Act, which gave the state more control over sentencing and monitoring violent offenders. Reagan's story is not just about her murder. It is also about who she was before her life was stolen. She was a daughter who loved her family, a student with big dreams, and a young woman with kindness in her heart. Her death is a reminder of how fragile life can be, but her legacy continues through the changes her case inspired. Today, when people hear the name Reagan Tokes, they don't just think about the crime. They think about the woman she was, bright, ambitious, loving, and the impact she left behind. Her life was tragically short, but her memory continues to inspire and protect others. When Reagan Tokes left her job on the night of February 8, 2017, she thought she was just driving home like any other night. But within minutes, Her life was taken in a violent crime. Police worked hard to trace what happened, but the process was slow, relying on witness statements, limited camera footage, and data that had to be pieced together by hand. Now imagine if advanced artificial intelligence tools had been fully available back then. The timeline of Reagan's final hours could have been reconstructed in hours instead of weeks. Here's how. First, let's start with Reagan leaving her workplace. AI could have instantly pulled data from multiple sources: surveillance cameras near the restaurant, parking lot sensors, and even traffic cameras along her usual route home. Instead of detectives having to request this information one by one, an AI system could have gathered it in seconds, lining up every frame of video into a clear sequence. This would have shown exactly when she left, what direction she drove, and if another car was following her. Next, AI could have tracked the suspect's movements. Brian Goldsby, the man later found guilty of her murder, was wearing a GPS ankle monitor at the time, but back then, no one was actively analyzing his movement in real time. The device simply recorded his locations, and the data was checked only after the crime. With modern AI, the system could have compared his GPS path against crime reports, suspicious areas, and known victim routes. The moment his route crossed with Reagan's, the system could have raised an alert. Another way AI could have helped is through phone and digital data. Reagan's phone signal would have shown her location as she moved. AI could have matched that with Goldsby's GPS data, building a precise map of where their paths overlapped. It could have even analyzed the speed and sudden stops of her car to guess when she was forced off course. All of this could be done automatically, without waiting for analysts to go through records manually. Surveillance and GPS are only part of the picture. AI could have also scanned patterns in previous crimes. Goldsby had been committing armed robberies in the same area just days before Reagan's murder. AI would have spotted this trend, flagging him as a high-risk individual. If those warnings had been acted on earlier, Reagan's case might have been prevented altogether. Even after the crime, AI could have sped up the search. Once Reagan's car was found, AI could have checked nearby traffic cameras to track how it got there and who was driving. It could have analyzed clothing patterns, car reflections, or even unusual walking movements of anyone seen near the car. Small details like this often take human investigators weeks to spot, but AI can highlight them in minutes. DNA evidence was another key part of the case. In 2017, testing was accurate but still slow. Today, AI-assisted genome tracing can process and compare samples much faster, even linking partial DNA to family trees. This means suspects could be identified in hours instead of months. If we put all these tools together, the timeline of Reagan's final night becomes clear, leaving work, being intercepted, the route of her car, and the exact locations where both she and Goldsby moved. Instead of detectives working through each step over time, AI could have drawn the entire map in near real time. This doesn't erase the tragedy, but it shows us how technology can give victims a louder voice and prevent killers from hiding behind shadows. Reagan's case is heartbreaking, but it also shows how the future of investigation may look: faster, sharper, and powered by intelligence that never sleeps. The murder of Reagan Tokes was not only about one man's violence, it also exposed serious cracks in the justice system, cracks that gave Brian Goldsby the chance to kill. At the time of the crime, Goldsby had just been released from prison after serving time for robbery. He was supposed to be under tight parole supervision. He even wore a GPS ankle monitor. On paper, that sounds safe. But in reality, the system failed. Here's why. The GPS device tracked his location, but no one was watching it in real time. Data was stored and reviewed later, sometimes days later. That meant parole officers only knew where he had been, not where he was at the moment. If AI-driven monitoring had been in place, the story could have been different. Imagine a system that doesn't just collect GPS points, but also analyzes them instantly. For example, pattern detection. Goldsby's device showed he was hanging around the same areas at night, near bars and walking trails. AI could have flagged this as high-risk behavior for someone with his record. Victim overlap. On the night of Reagan's murder, his GPS path crossed directly with hers. In a live system, this overlap could have triggered an alert within minutes. Parole compliance. AI simulations show that more than half of his nightly movements broke curfew rules. But because no one was monitoring closely, nothing was done. The parole system also suffered from overload. Officers had too many cases, not enough staff, and outdated tools. Goldsby blended into the numbers. AI could have reduced that burden by sorting parolees into risk levels, focusing attention on the most dangerous. What makes this even more painful is that Reagan's death was preventable. The data was there, the red flags were there, but the system didn't connect the dots. With AI simulations, we can now replay those failures step by step. The GPS map lights up showing him circling neighborhoods, committing robberies, and finally crossing paths with Reagan. Each moment could have been a warning. Each moment was missed. The tragedy reminds us, technology alone isn't enough. It must be used correctly, with speed, focus, and human responsibility. Reagan Tokes' story is heartbreaking, but it also teaches us an important lesson. Crime prevention today is not just about people, it's also about technology. With the right use of modern AI, tragedies like hers can be reduced, maybe even stopped. Here's how. 1. Smarter GPS monitoring. In Reagan's case, the attacker wore a GPS ankle monitor, but no one watched it in real time. AI can change that. Instead of only recording movements, AI can analyze them live. For example, if a parolee keeps circling a college campus late at night or lingers near bars and parking lots, AI would flag it as risky behavior and alert officers immediately. 2. Risk scoring and prediction. AI can study a parolee's past crimes, daily movements, and behavior patterns. Then, it gives them a risk score. High scores mean high danger. Someone like Brian Goldsby, with a violent past and strange movement patterns, would not slip through unnoticed. Officers could act faster before a crime happens. 3. Victim overlap alerts. One of the scariest facts is that Reagan and Goldsby's GPS paths crossed on the night of the crime. With AI-driven systems, the moment a parolee crosses paths with someone in a high-risk setting, like a dark park or empty street at midnight, the system can send an alert. That overlap becomes a warning, not just another data point. 4. AI plus human partnership. AI doesn't replace people, it supports them. Parole officers often handle too many cases at once. AI could sort through thousands of GPS data points instantly and show them only the highest risk alerts. That means less time wasted, more focus on the dangerous individuals. 5. Emergency response integration. Imagine if AI saw a parolee breaking curfew, moving toward unsafe areas, and then suddenly stopping in an empty field. It could send a direct alert to local police, who could check in within minutes. In short, AI brings speed, focus, and clarity, things that the old system lacked. While we can't change the past, we can learn from it. If AI had been used properly, Reagan's path and her attacker's path would not have gone unnoticed. The future of safety depends on using both human judgment and AI intelligence, working together to save lives. Reagan Tokes' death shocked Ohio and the entire country. People asked the same question: how could a violent repeat offender wearing a GPS monitor still be free to attack her? The outrage led to big changes in the law. In 2018, Ohio passed the Reagan Tokes Act. The law was designed to close the gaps that allowed her killer to slip through the system. Here's what it did. 1. Indefinite sentences for violent crimes. Before, many offenders received fixed prison terms. Under the new law, violent criminals can get indefinite sentences. That means they don't automatically walk free after a set time. If prison officials believe they are still dangerous, they can be kept longer. 2. Tighter GPS and parole monitoring. The act also demanded better monitoring of released offenders. GPS devices are no longer just trackers. They must be tied to active supervision. Parole officers are expected to act quickly if rules are broken. 3. Focus on rehabilitation and risk assessment. The law requires prisons to do more than hold people. They must assess whether an inmate is truly ready to return to society. If not, the release can be delayed. Beyond the law, Reagan's family has worked hard to keep her memory alive. They started the Reagan Delaney Tokes Memorial Foundation, which supports scholarships, safety awareness, and reforms to protect young people. Her legacy is not just about tragedy, it is about change. The Reagan Tokes Act continues to shape debates on justice, parole reform, and public safety in Ohio and across the U.S. Reagan's story became more than a headline. It became a movement. AI may not feel grief, but it remembers patterns, failures, and warnings. In the case of Reagan Tokes, artificial intelligence shows us what went wrong: a system that tracked but did not protect, a parole board that monitored but did not act, and a series of missed red flags that led to a preventable tragedy. By reassembling data, reconstructing timelines, and simulating outcomes, AI makes clear what human oversight ignored. The cost of negligence is always paid in human lives. But remembering is not enough. Reagan's story has already reshaped laws and inspired activism, yet her name must remain more than a headline. AI reminds us that justice is not only about catching the guilty, it is about building systems that cannot fail the innocent. In the shadows of this case, technology gives us a voice that says, "Never again." Subscribe, share, and keep this story alive, because change begins when we refuse to look away.